Welcome everybody to Eubank versus Benn Fight Week. It is finally here. Today we are in Canary Wharf for the grand arrivals. And this is where we'll be tomorrow as well for the open workout. Over the course of the next hour or so, all of our fighters will be treading that red carpet. I'm Andy Clark. Alongside me today and for the rest of this week, we have got Matt Macklin and Sonny Edwards as we build up to Fatal Fury.
本部へようこそ。ここでは画廊伝説のすべてが保管されています。
He's Howard.
Here you can see our server room where millions of players are playing online as we speak. Here you can see the original artwork of the
Speed? Speed, where are you going?
Whoa! Yo, Chad, this place is sick! Yo, what is that red button?
Bro, don't do anything stupid.
Nah. It must have the new game in this. Chad, should I
Press the button.
Chad, should I take it?
You're mine. Let us finish what your fathers couldn't.
Speed, do not press the red button.
Son?
Oh no.
What's up?
Destiny has brought you here. 32 years in the making. The fight no one could make happen. Now I, Geese Howard, will make it happen.
Oh!
Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. Fight, 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 fight.
Oh my God, Chad, are you?
I'm gonna get you out of there, Speed. Oh.
You boxers ain't built for this. Chad, this is crazy. Oh my God.
Come on, son. Yeah. Okay, reset. Oh, Jesus.
Bring it on, come on.
What's happening?
Time to end this.
次の。
Oh, thank God. Help, my friend's stuck. Ow!
Finally, time to settle what your fathers never could. Fight! The fight that started a legacy continues. Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. The fate of a family legacy will be decided.
It's going to be some night at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Saturday night. I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's been long anticipated, this fight. It's 2.5 years in the making, really, because, of course, they were supposed to meet in October, what seems like forever ago now, back at the end of 2022. And actually, chaps, even the press tour seems like quite a long time ago now. We were together for that, and it was interesting, to say the least. Chris Eubank Jr. being the kind of marketing genius that he's shown himself to be down the years, stole all of the headlines. And you would say that if you were to have a look back at that week, Sonny, I think it was a comprehensive Eubank win on points, at least.
Yeah, and somehow he still doesn't seem to be the bad guy in this fight. I think it's the reaction was okay. There was a lot of people thinking that there wasn't no place for the egg or all the stuff that was going on, but it was almost like a lot of people got it. You know what I mean? They really accepted it. They understand the promotion of a fight. And with all the sort of backstory that we've spoke about over the last 2 years, why the first fight didn't happen, it was almost kind of fitting to end up with egg in his face, in my opinion. And I think a lot of fight fans agreed.
And this was the aforementioned incident. He just leans on to have a quick chat in his ear, so he kind of takes his attention away from the side that the egg is going to come from, dips into his pocket, and there we had it. It happened so quickly in real time that some of us watching it, myself included, didn't really see it. We only found out it had happened a little bit later. All hell broke loose on the stage, Matt, and that's understandable because he's raised his hand, he's put his hand on somebody, and it cost him a lot of money because the British Boxing Board of Control got involved and slapped a hefty fine on him. And as Sonny said, not for everybody, but our take was that it was very annoying if you're Conor Benn, but actually just funny enough and playful enough for most people to kind of like it.
Yeah, I think so. It was, you could say it was strategic marketing work of art. You know, to kind of suck him in, do the can't hear you know, to sneakily get the egg out of the pocket and get into a position where he can land it. I thought that was pretty impressive. Look, it's you know, it was a bit of egg in the face, and I know I'm not saying I'd want egg in my face, by the way, especially if someone I didn't particularly like. It's not the end of the world. If anything, I think it has created even more hype. Not that this fight really needed any, but it has kind of got people. You know, that week it blew up, didn't it? Again, and you know, I'm sure that won't be the last shenanigan we see before this fight happens.
No, these kinds of weeks, you have to go into them almost expecting that anything could happen, and you don't really know exactly what form it's going to take. But I feel like something strange is going to happen this week, because in boxing, let's be honest, it's a pretty strange sport from all angles, and you never really know what's going to unfold. We'll see the pair of them later on in an hour or so, and they've got quite a lot of this to do this week, Sonny. You were in plenty of big fights, and recently too, and the demands on fighters, I think, have got more as the years have gone by with the emergence of the digital platform. The amount of people who want to speak to you is more and more. They're both experienced. Eubank more than Benn, you would have to say. Will they have something planned, do you think? How much energy can you really afford to put into that kind of thing?
Well, I think really everything points at Conor Benn being full of energy. He's not weight cut particularly. He's not had to drop down to the weight he was campaigning at. He's gone up 2 whole full clean weight classes, so you'd think that this week could be a great opportunity for Conor Benn to come full of energy. And maybe when Chris Eubank's getting down to weight, we've spoke a lot about the 160s coming down from 168. He looked quite tight a few years ago when he was making 160, and you know, if I was Conor Benn, especially like you said, Matt, 1-0 down from the first sort of round, I'd be really trying to get my own back this week. I would be trying to cause chaos and then go back to the I haven't got no weight to make, if I'm being honest, especially after how kind of resounding the first lap of the press tour was.
Yeah, what Sonny's saying there, that's quite an interesting point. You know, fight week, all the training's done, so it's about conserving energy. And, you know, these events, mental energy, it can be draining, particularly if you get emotionally sucked into it. If you can just sort of switch on and switch off, and you're used to it and you're experienced at doing that, then you can minimise the waste of energy. But and with Eubank, he's experienced at it, he's good at it, but he's the one who's got a weight issue this week. Conor Benn doesn't. You know, he's never boxed at 160, and I know he says he's coming down, but he won't be coming down that much from 160. He'll be really comfortable at it, you would imagine. So if I was him, the more chaos this week I could create to try and suck Eubank in, to mentally drain him a little bit, I'd be doing it.
And if he's dragging Eubank into a place where he has to respond, he has to almost match the performance, someone that's probably had to drop a lot more weight, the 6 p.m. starts for every day, you'd think it would start naturally tiring you, especially when you've got, okay, maybe 8-10 pounds to do from now, maybe even more from now to do until the weigh-ins. So, yeah, I think but you never know. Conor Benn might opt for just focus on the fight. I want to get in the ring. I don't want there to be anything. But if I was him, like I said, I would be trying to drag Eubank into every bit of emotion, every bit of physical, getting up, adrenaline coming up, because it's going to drain Eubank a lot more at this stage. That's probably where the weights can be a big benefit only on Ben's side, and it's at this stage. Because once he's refueled, once he's got back in there and ready for the fight, you'd think he'd be in as good position as he can. So I think this week could be very, very important for Conor Benn.
What's been interesting as well is that Conor Benn's let plenty of people into camp to have a good look around. He's been quite an open book in that regard. Eubank, less so. Access has been fairly limited, but we have got a little bit of footage of him talking a few tactics with Jonathan Banks. So let's just have a little look at this. This is filmed down at Churchill's.
A lot of guys, like the right uppercut, a lot of guys throw it just without anticipation and without specific intent. Like those two shots, this right uppercut and this shot, those two shots, you have to have a specific intent or a perfect rhythm to throw those shots. Because those are some of the most dangerous shots.
Yeah, that's to come up with each other, just to come up with something.
Even a lot of guys have a good rhythm for throwing those shots. Whether they throw single shots or not, a lot of guys have a good rhythm of throwing shots. So since they have a good rhythm for throwing shots, it's cool. It works for a lot of people. For a lot of people, it don't. And you every time I see you throw it, every time I see you, you always throw that shot. So I said, okay, if that's the shot you want to throw, now only thing we got to do is either stagger or add to it.
What I found interesting about that conversation, and something else I heard him say to Eubank, I think on the same day when the cameras were in, was that the way he put it was, what's in your head, I want in your hands. So basically saying, you need to box to your personality. We will have a plan, but we need to do it suit you. That right uppercut could be quite key, couldn't it? Because he likes to whip that uppercut in, and catching Ben on the way in, because we do feel like he is going to come in, it could be important.
I can't lie, I couldn't hear what he was saying, but was reading it, and I felt I looked as confused as Chris Eubank did with what he was really trying to get at. I don't know. I understand what you're saying about finding the right and the intent of a shot, but then he just started talking about other fighters having really good rhythm. I don't know. I got a bit lost there, if I'm being perfectly honest.
I think what he was trying to say was, I can't change you. I just want to try and add to you. So what you throw this right hook, right uppercut, hook. You got a nice rhythm to that. It's a natural shot. It flows. Now we can maybe add to that, put stuff on that. If I try and take that away from you, I'm going to affect your whole rhythm of how you fight. That's what I read into it.
Yeah, and you've got to think in that aspect, he's definitely got to be right, because one, we've seen you with that right uppercut very dangerously at times in his career, really walk people on. And with where they're starting, with how tall they both are, and what angle you'd expect Conor Benn to be trying to find some safety, probably lower, coming in under the shots of Chris Eubank. If he goes at the wrong time and Chris Eubank goes at the right time, that is a massive danger shot, especially with the reach and the height advantage that Eubank starts with.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's probably his best punch, the right uppercut. You know, now he's landed it against taller fighters where he gets down real low, gets his head in their chest, and he throws it up. But with Ben trying to come in, you'd imagine the jab, uppercut with the shot. Yeah, interesting. I think that will definitely be a key punch for Eubank.
Okay, well, that's the main event, of course. Let's have a look at the rest of the card, because we've got some cracking fights on this undercard. It's a 5-fight card. Anthony Yard up against Lyndon Arthur. That's a trilogy match at light heavyweight, one apiece after their first two encounters. Liam Smith takes on Aaron McKenna. That really is experience against emerging talent. Nothing to really lose there for McKenna, plenty to lose there for Liam Smith, but I feel like there's plenty left from him, even though we haven't seen him since his rematch with Eubank Jr., which, to be honest with you, was a bit of a disastrous night for him. A British Cruiserweight title fight between Chev Clark and Vidal Riley. That's probably the hardest one to call, I would say. And then at Cruiserweight, this is a tough fight. Billum Smith against Brandon Glanton. Billum Smith the former WBO World Cruiserweight champ, of course, but Glanton is somebody who comes with a ton of ambition. We'll start with that one because it is the first fight of the night, actually. Billam Smith will be very pleased to be on a stage like this and an opponent like that, because he won't have any problem getting up for this. He wants to become a two-time world champion. It was a really hard fight against Zurdo Ramirez, who was terrific on the night. Billam Smith believed right up until the end that he could get something done, as did the corner. He took plenty that night, but you could completely understand why they never at any point felt like they needed to stop it. You know, this is boxing, and sometimes it is really hard, and it was hard. Glanton, though, he's a hard fighter. He's a tough fighter. He's got a really good win away in Russia in his previous fight, and you just get the feeling that those two are going to meet head-on early.
I would say so, but that'll suit Billam Smith, I think. You know, Ramirez was a tricky, difficult opponent. Good southpaw, skillful, good rhythm, got into a groove, got into his groove, was putting combinations together, and Billam Smith couldn't really cope with it, you know, with the workload, the volume. I mean, he toughed it out, as we knew he would. And yeah, I don't think there was ever a chance of him. I never thought Shane McGuire was going to stop the fight, because it's a well-titled fight and he was in there, and, you know, the puncher's chance and that, and he was the naturally bigger guy than Ramirez. But it did take a bit of a working over. You know, it was I wouldn't say it was brutal, but, you know, he took a lot of punishment in the fight. But I think this fight is a good. I think it's the right fight for him. It's a tough fight, but a fight that if he's unsung and he's still got plenty left, he should win.
And what about the other cruiserweight fight there, Sonny, the British cruiserweight title fight between Chev Clark and Vidal Riley? This is one of those ones where, if you want to, you can boil it down to quite simple ingredients, which we like to. I like to anyway. Vidal Riley will probably feel that he's the better boxer and that he can win that way. Chev Clark will probably look at Vidal Riley and say that may be so, but I went to the Olympics, I've got basic tools, and I'm tougher than you, so I'll drag you into something you're not ready for, and I'll beat you that way. I mean, it's rarely that simple, is it?
Yeah, and I feel like both fighters are fighters that I've known for quite a long time. Vidal Riley, a whole lifetime more than Chev. He was, honestly, I'm talking age 10 and 11 years old. He was sparring the boy. It was used to spar my brother. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years older, around the same weight, because Vidal was obviously quite a big kid, but he was super talented. I'm talking the one in the gym you point at and say, now this is a special fighter. And then he went through England and achieved so much, but there seemed to get to a point of his life where boxing kind of didn't exist no more, and he kind of went missing for a long time. Now, he's had quite a long resurgence coming back, really, even though he's been quite well known and made some headlines, and obviously the link with the influencer side of boxing really helped his brand on the professional boxing front. But this, for me, is his first real dangerous fight. Now, Chev, an Olympian, a very, very tough fighter. Yes, admittedly, he lost in Monaco against a very good fighter in the Frenchman. His name escapes me right now. Yes, and he was very big. Very, very big for the weight, and he hit very, very hard. You could actually see the serious size and weight and physicality of him. It almost looked like Chev was the weight below in that ring that night. However, I don't think it will be the same against Vidal. Now, Chev is a very, very physically impressive fighter. He's very game. He can box and move a little bit and move his head a little bit, but he comes to look to put a demolition job, really. And now, my biggest question mark on Vidal Riley is, if the fight's 5, 6, 7 rounds in and starts getting to them later stages, we haven't seen him in any sort of level of stress and had to see him dig out. Can he do it? I know in the amateurs, it was kind of the thing, his physicality was kind of the thing that let him down when he first started stepping up to senior, getting to an ABA finals and not getting it over the line. It was the physicality, the size of him that was the problem. Now, for him and his team and his family's sake, that they will need to be on song against a fighter like Chev. And it doesn't mean he hasn't got the skills to do it, but I think Saturday we're going to find out if he's got the engine, the ambition, the mindset to do it. He's got the skills, definitely got the skills, but Chev is an animal in the ring.
Okay, well, Thomas Treiber behind us isn't too far away from making his first foray into matters this evening, so he will be introducing the fighters in. Then when they get to the top of the red carpet, they'll be having a quick chat with Mike Coppinger. So we'll try and pause for Thomas, we'll try and pause for Mike Coppinger as well. We will get to discussion of Liam Smith against Aaron McKenna and Anthony Yard against Lyndon Arthur. Of course, there's plenty of time for that tonight. There's plenty of time for that throughout the course of the week. Quite a demanding week for the fighters, as we've said. Everything at 6 o'clock in the evening, every day this week, and there's a big media capture day tomorrow as well. But the competitive juices will really start flowing in the next few minutes. Thomas Treiber, I think, just about ready to take over. So Thomas just waiting for the signal to get things moving. Let's just dive in, Matt, and just have a quick one, and keep your eye on TT. If he launches into song, then make way for him. Smith, someone you know really well, you know the whole family really well. The last time we saw him was against Eubank Jr. in the rematch. It was a difficult build-up. It didn't go right for him on the night. But most people I speak to don't feel like that is any kind of evidence that he is washed or over the hill. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Welcome to the grand arrivals for Fatal Fury. A great night of championship boxing this Saturday, April 26th, from Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, England. It is being brought to you by Ring Magazine and SNK Corporation, the publisher of the famous video fighting game Fatal Fury City of Wolves, with Eddie Hearn for Matchroom Boxing, Ben Shalom for Boxer, and Box Raw in association with Ring Magazine. Along with their great sponsors, Public Investment Fund, Visit Saudi, STC, SRMG, Dr. Suleiman El Habib Medical Group, Saudia, the national airline of Saudi Arabia, Jeddah Season, Malaf Cola, Visit Qatar, Core Group, Desert, NHC, Jacko, Sky, Arab National Bank, First Data, Sella, and SMC. A big thanks to those great sponsors. It will be broadcast worldwide on DAZN and on Sky Sports Box Office in the UK. Final tickets are available now through ticketmaster.co.uk. Let's now get the grand arrivals started. Our first two fighters competing Saturday in a 12-round Cruiserweight contest. First, let's welcome, from Atlanta, Georgia, USA, he brings a professional record of 20 wins, 2 defeats, 17 of his 20 wins coming by way of knockout. He is the highly ranked contender, ranked number 8 by Ring Magazine. Let's welcome Brandon Bulletproof Glanton.
So the last time, well, the first time really that I was aware of Brandon Glanton was when he appeared during fight week for Okolie versus Chris Smith. He was part of Team Okolie. He'd been a sparring partner and he was shouting for a fight with Isaac Chamberlain, which didn't happen for him. But he's a dangerous guy because he's got a couple of defeats. One was against David Light, who we saw against Okolie. It was very close. It could have gone either way. Another one was in Dubai against a 3-0 Russian fighter. Maybe a slightly strange piece of matchmaking because his opponent had actually stopped beaten Dmitry Kudryashov in his second fight, so all was not quite as it seemed there. But then in his last fight, beat Alexei Egorov in Russia, so he's made a good Russian fighter basically quit in front of his home crowd. That's what happened, and that is no mean feat. Brandon Glanton, I think, is just going to make his way off the stage. He's completely blanked Mike Coppinger, the first scandal of fight week. I'm joking, here he is.
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Hey, thanks for being here with us, Brandon. Look, this is going to be the biggest fight of your career, obviously. You're facing a former champion in Chris Smith. What can we expect to see from you on Saturday night?
Fireworks, don't blink. Same as the last 20 wins.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
He's good to watch. He is good to watch, Brandon Glanton. Throws a lot of hooks, a lot of uppercuts.
And now let's welcome from Bournemouth, England. He has a professional record of 20 wins, 2 defeats, 13 of those 20 wins coming by way of knockout. He is the former WBO Cruiserweight Champion of the World, known as the Gentleman, Chris Bilham Smith.
And as we know, Bilham Smith is a crowd-pleasing fighter, a good fighter to watch. He's won every title he could have won, really. World, European, British and Commonwealth champion. He wants to get back and become a two-time world champion. It's number 4 against number 5 in the WBC rankings. And we feel like we know what we'll get from Chris, Sonny.
Yeah, very tough, very strong. Usually quite big and impressive physically at the weight compared to his opponent. Yeah, may not have the biggest and broadest skill set or light, nimble feet to be bragging about, but very tough, very strong.
Chris, you're obviously coming off that tough loss to Zurdo Ramirez in a title unification again in November, and now you're fighting Brandon Glanton. How excited are you to shake off that loss?
Yeah, I'm excited to be back here on a big event, and it's a chance for me to right some wrongs from the last fight.
Thanks and best of luck on Saturday.
Thank you.
Super relaxed, the gentleman.
Fighters now face off.
Okay, so we're going to do some face-offs.
12 rounds scheduled in the Cruiserweight division. Brandon Bulletproof Glanton versus the Gentleman, Chris Bilham Smith.
This is a massive opportunity for Glanton to get the real name on his record and try and catapult himself into the mix for world title fights. If he'd beaten David Light, then he would have got one against Lawrence Okoli, but it didn't quite go his way. So he's really, really hungry, and that's what makes him dangerous.
Big time, and I don't think this is going to be an easy fight for Bilham Smith coming back after that defeat. Going in against a young, hungry lion this is nothing to lose but a huge opportunity. It could be difficult.
Our next two fighters competing this Saturday in a scheduled 12 test. It will be for the British Cruiserweight Championship. We will first welcome the challenger. From Tottenham, London, England, he is undefeated with 12 wins. 7 of his 12 wins coming by way of knockout. He is the current English Cruiserweight champion, Vidal, the Realist Riley.
And Saturday will be a genuine home game for Vidal Riley. He grew up in the shadow of what was the old White Hart Lane, Park Lane. Went to school in Northumberland Park. It's an area I know pretty well, and it really is just around the corner. And he's had an up and down few months, hasn't he? Because he had that fight set with Isaac Chamberlain. Really good fight. People were talking about it. Then a few weeks out, Chamberlain pulled out and he was kind of on the floor, and then he got offered this, and it's for a British title, and it's on this platform, and it's better, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, it would have been nice to do both, wouldn't it? But yeah, the fact that fell through must have been difficult for him, but here we are, the show rolls on, and as you say, this is a bigger fight, bigger platform.
Vidal, I'm sure it was really disappointing when you had that fight canceled recently, but now you come right back in a major stadium show. How are you feeling?
Feel good, man. It's destiny. That's how I feel. I've been saying it. I mean it. I deeply mean it. It's destiny, man. I just need to deliver.
Best of luck. Thank you.
Got the Spurs tracksuit on there.
And now let's welcome the defending champion from Kent, England. He proudly represented Great Britain at the 2020 Olympics and now has a professional record of 10 wins, just 1 defeat, 7 of those 10 wins coming by way of knockout. Here is the former European title challenger and reigning and defending British champion, C4 Siobhan Clark.
When you look at Chev Clark, Sonny, he was an Olympian, which does come with a fanfare when you turn pro. He probably didn't get as big a one as some people, but he's done a lot in a short period of time, going in with the likes of Vassal Dutsard, Tommy McCarthy pretty early on. He's won a British title, he's challenged for a European title. There's plenty of experience there. He is a tough fighter. There's the odd sign that he can maybe be hurt, that you can get to him, but as I say, the resume is impressive.
Yeah, and you really don't have to force him or beg him to get in a hard fight. You really don't. He's been refreshing as one of the Olympians, how he's approached his pro career.
Siobhan, you're the British Cruiserweight champion. You're defending that title on Saturday in Tottenham Stadium. It's going to be over 60,000 people there, sold out. How's it going to feel?
It's going to feel amazing. It's great to be on this stage. And I'm going to bring my title home.
All right, thank you. Looking forward to seeing you on Saturday.
Yes, sir.
Fighters, please face off. "12-round schedule for the British Cruiserweight Championship. The challenger, the Dow the Realist Riley, versus champion C4, Siobhan Clark.
We love a fight for a British title, don't we? And this is a really good quality one.
Yeah, and I do think big props to Fidel, because even though I do rate Isaac Chamberlain as a fighter, I think stylistically Fidel much better, a boxer, lighter-handed, maybe not as big, heavy or as strong. C4 Chev comes with dynamite in both hands and really lets go. And right now, seeing them and maybe Chev looks like a slightly bigger one is making me rethink back to Mosquera and how big he was in the ring.
Our next two fighters competing this Saturday for the vacant WBA International Middleweight Championship. Let's first welcome from Monaghan, Ireland, undefeated with 19 wins, 10 of his 19 wins coming by way of knockout. Let's welcome the relentless, undefeated fighter known as the Silencer, Aaron McKenna.
This is a really interesting fight, this, because McKenna's been waiting for something big for what will feel like forever for him. They've got all that experience over in America. They've been bred to fight. They've been at it from a young age. Did a lot as amateurs, but turned pro as soon as they possibly could. Good performance against Wisma Lima. Good performance in his first fight in the middleweight tournament, which looked like it was going to then see him face Kieran Conway in the semi-finals, which was a great fight and one that they kind of both needed, really. And then that fell through, which would have been really disappointing for him.
Aaron, you're fighting a former champion in Liam Smith on Saturday, by far the most experienced fighter of your career. How do you feel prepared for that?
Yeah, well, I've been waiting for a moment like this for a good while now. I've been calling for big fights this last 2 or 3 years, and it's a fight I'm really excited for, and I'm looking forward to it. It's just incredible to be part of the first ever Ring Magazine card, and big thanks to His Excellency for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, look, obviously a big win here I think is going to put you right in contention for a title shot. What kind of statement are you looking to make?
Yeah, well, I know there's going to be a lot of eyes on me, and this card's getting a lot of attention. So I plan to make the most of it and make a statement win come Saturday night.
All right, best of luck. Thank you.
And now let's welcome from Liverpool, England. He has a professional record consisting of 33 wins, 4 defeats, 1 draw. 20 of his 33 wins coming by way of knockout. He is the former WBO super welterweight champion of the world, Liam "Beefy" Smith.
So Matt, I was just asking you about Liam Smith before we got interrupted by Triber right at the very start. So where are you at with him? Where do you think he's at? He has had quite a lot of fights now. He's been in some real big ones, some hard ones, but I just get the feeling that there is plenty left, probably.
Yeah, well, that's the impression I get when I speak to him. I mean, he didn't look good against Chris Eubank, and that's not. I'm not even on about the result. I'm just saying he didn't look right in there. You know, he looked like he'd got the weight completely wrong or something. But he's a hell of a fighter, and he should be too much for McKenna.
Liam, you're obviously no stranger to these big stadium shows. You fought Canelo Alvarez, you've been in a million major fights. What kind of experience and how is that going to help you in this win?
Yeah, I've had experience on all the big stages, you know, but it's all irrelevant come Saturday night. You know, obviously, Conor McKenna's coming to try and finish my career, and it's not that time just yet.
And look, it's a long layoff for you. It's been a while, well over a year now. You think it's going to take a few rounds to shake off the rust?
No, you know, obviously sparring, I'm a little bit more experienced than that. I don't think that'll be a big part. I've done enough rounds in the gym. I've had enough fights over the years that I can't really blame inexperience, ring rust. So I'm looking forward to Saturday, looking forward to being back. It's been a long time out, and you know, I'll be back with a bang.
Thank you.
So, Sonny, put yourself in McKenna's place. He can't be too respectful, but he can't be too gung-ho either. How do you kind of strike a balance when you're in with somebody who's done so much more than you?
Yeah, and I was genuinely quite shocked when I saw this match, where the perceived level of his career, with the fights he's been in, Liam Smith, this seems like a massive banana skin, because Aaron McKenna is a good fighter in his own right, and from where he is, maybe, I don't know, brand and awareness, fighter-wise, you'd think Liam would be looking at way past it, but big props to him for taking this fight, because Aaron was a great amateur. Him and his brother have been great fighters. They've shown a lot of toughness, a lot of skills, and look, he's had some good wins. That Usman Lima was a great win, gone on to win the IBO world title since and been a force to reckon with. So this is an interesting fight. I think you've got to favour Beef, his experience, his age, and yes, he might not look the best in the Chris Eubank rematch. From their side, there were some reasons. The dates were quite pressing. He had to get maybe in the ring sooner than he would have liked, but you'd think he's coming back to really make a statement with Aaron McKenna in this fight.
He's all business, gentlemen. McKenna. You look at his face there. He's dialed in for this one already.
I will come out throwing tons of leather as he always does.
Our next two fighters competing Saturday in a trilogy rematch scheduled for 12 rounds. It will be for the vacant WBA Intercontinental Light Heavyweight Championship. Let's first welcome from Manchester, England. His professional record, 24 wins, 2 defeats, 16 of those 24 wins coming by way of knockout. He is the former IBO Light Heavyweight Champion of the World, Lyndon King Arthur.
The trilogy fight. So let's go to our resident Lyndon Arthur expert, which is Sonny Edwards. He's a good friend of yours, and I find him kind of fascinating, you know, because he's hard to read. Sometimes in fights, he kind of coasts through fights. There's a lot of ability there. He's got some really good wins. He hung in there and went 12 with Bivol, which was no mean feat, particularly because he had an injury to get over to get into the ring there. Sometimes you want to shake him and inject a bit more urgency. Other times, you have to stand and admire the skills.
Yeah, I mean, Lyndon's so laid back. If there was any more, he'd be laid down. He loves boxing. He doesn't really get into all the big fight talk, but look, when it sits right and he lands right, we've seen what he's capable of.
Lyndon, this is going to be your third fight with Anthony Yard. You won the first fight by decision. The last fight didn't go your way. And in that first fight, you really had a great job with your jab. How do you get back to that?
Listen, we get it cracking on Saturday, and we'll see. Everybody should tune in. I'm excited.
And look, obviously it's 1-1 now. This is going to decide who comes out on top in this rivalry. Do you think it leads to a title shot if you win?
Pardon?
Do you think it will lead to a title shot if you win?
Yeah, whoever wins this fight goes on to bigger and better things, obviously. So, yeah.
All right, thank you and best of luck.
And now let's welcome from Ilford, London, England. He has a professional record of 26 wins, 3 defeats, 24 of his 26 wins coming by way of knockout. He is the former 2-time world title challenger, Anthony, the Beast from the East, Yard.
He's kind of had an interesting time of it recently, Anthony Yard, because let's be honest, the The rift with Frank Warren came at exactly the wrong time in Anthony Yard's career, because since then he's basically had to watch Joshua Buatsi have a couple of fights that he could have had. We last saw him last October against Ralph Ilkans, where I think he went in there feeling like he was going to blast him out, and then when he decided just to box towards the end of the fight, looked a lot better. He'll have confidence from the fact that he beat Lyndon Arthur in their second meeting. But as Mike said up on stage there, whoever wins this is going to get another opportunity. He's fought for world titles twice already, tough jobs, and he wants another crack.
Yeah, I still think there's quite a bit left in him. I think he just completely underperformed in his last fight. I don't think that was a true reflection of where he's at.
All right, Anthony, obviously you know Lyndon very well. You fought him twice now. First fight didn't go your way. Second fight, 4th round knockout. How can you possibly top that?
Doing the same again, or doing it quicker. But for me, it's just focusing on getting the victory.
And look, I know you're yearning for another title shot. You've had 2 title fights now, Sergey Kovalev, Arthur Beterbiev. Both are incredible fights, and you came up just short. What do you think you have to do to get back there?
Just keep winning, stay focused, keep progressing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do think this is one of those fights that could, in the estimation of some people, over-deliver, because I don't think it's necessarily a trilogy that people were really asking for. But at the same time, I think it's a good match. Neither of these two looking to break the other's gaze. You don't want to get too deep into this kind of stuff on a Tuesday, do you? I think after 30 seconds or so, you need one of you to look away, or this could go on forever, and it can become a little bit energy sapping. Okay, so we've got one fight left to go, the top of the bill, Eubank versus Benn, a fight that is steeped in history.
Massive characters, so different, polar opposites. They're the perfect dance partners. You're either Team Chris or you're Team Nigel.
There was no in between.
Here you had 2 diametrically opposed individuals. On the one hand, the kid from East London streets, attitude, violent. Nigel Benn would walk into my office and I would never know if he was going to try and hit me or burst into tears and sob like a baby. Completely unpredictable.
Nigel Benn was my favourite fighter growing up. Fierce outside the ring, fierce inside the ring. His nickname was the Dark Destroyer, and I think he embodied that. There's almost this scare factor with him. He's the kind of guy you wouldn't want to see down a dark alley.
He would scream every time he knocked somebody out, like he wanted to beat him up again.
On the other side, you have Eubank. He would dress in exotic clothes purely because he knew it would get him front page on the tabloids.
The perception was that Eubank was the cocky, arrogant one. You know, the showman, the big truck.
What I saw was a physical specimen that had put in a lot of work. He was the master of technique. Nigel Benn was the master of violence.
I just want to go in there and throw hell for leather at him. Not boxing. I don't want to stand up there and box. I want to go in and have a fight with him. That was my attitude.
Eubank, initially, most people hated him because of his attitude. It was like, who do you think you are? He walked around like an English country gentleman. He upset a lot of people, but they all bought a ticket to watch him coming, hoping he'd get beat.
My father was the underdog, the great pretender at the time, the guy that people thought was a bit of a hype job.
Over a period of time, they began to appreciate the enigma that was Christopher Livingston Eubank.
We just clashed. We were just so different, me and Chris.
Nigel Benn did have a lot of hatred for my father, and it showed.
My dad couldn't stand senior. Still has to have a lot of patience with him to this day, so I completely get it.
Nigel Benn was so destructive, and that's what he brought to the ring, a very different kind of style to Chris Eubank, and that was one of the most important components of this whole rivalry.
You don't get more of a beef in boxing than you had with my father and Nigel Benn.
I love that, VT. I absolutely love it, because the history behind this fight is as rich and as storied a tapestry as you could possibly feast your eyes on. I was obsessed with that first fight, as lots of people were. I was 12 years old when it happened, Sunday night on ITV, terrestrial TV. It was so big, it's hard to explain to people now just how big. If you stop anyone in the street and ask them Benn or Eubank around that time, they would have an answer for you, whether they were bothered about boxing weren't. And just listening to them all talk about it, Barry Hearn for a start, I reckon Barry Hearn could convince me to do almost anything, because he sells things so. And when he said Nigel Benn was the master of violence, and that really was how he came across, because he had this vulnerability to him, but he was incredibly dangerous. You're a bit too young for it, Sonny, the first time around. So at what kind of point were you aware of that as a boxer? Did you become aware of all of that?
That's a great question. I think for some reason, I think the videotapes that you sort of get passed down, the old magazines that you find your way into. Look, I was watching Rocky from about 6, 7. By 9, I've started boxing. Now, straight away, the classics and the legends, they was already on YouTube at the early days of it. And for some reason, I always went big on Chris Eubank, senior side. I always went big. I think there was something about the contrasting personalities, and where one's like a bull in a china shop, snarling, you know, telling you what he's going to do, and then the other one with quite a peculiar accent, let's say, but in a gentleman manner, telling you how he's going to beat you. And I think it just captured such an imagination that, even though it was before my time, we still know everything that happened of it, to the point of it gets you excited for what's going on just behind us now.
Matt, you remember it. You remember it. Just about. You were young, but you're obsessed with boxing. You know, as soon as you were old enough to hold up your hands, really. So you remember that Sunday night and the pure drama of it, and the hatred between the two of them, and how the whole country really just got behind it.
Well, I remember it well, and I remember, you know, it was up the road, literally at the NEC. Everyone was talking about it. You know, my dad was not a hardcore, but certainly a casual boxing fan. Definitely would have watched all the big fights. And like I say, I was already watching boxing from the Tyson and the Rocky movies and everything else, but particularly this fight, with it being in the UK, because there'd been a few nights before, or a week before, they had this thing called the Best of Enemies, or the Worst of Enemies. It was on ITV, and they were sat across, and you know, it really got the full build-up, and the hype was massive. And I was the same at the time. I was a Eubank fan. I was more of a Eubank fan, and I was delighted that he won, obviously, but it was. I just remember everyone talking about it, even my uncle and even older people kind of in between my dad's age and me. They were all on about it as well. People coming around the house to watch it. There was just a real buzz and a massive anticipation for this fight.
I think as well, something that really marked it out for me was that even if you did favour one of the two fighters, you didn't hate the other one. They might have hated each other, or rather Nigel Benn might have hated Chris Eubank then, but as boxing fans, you could definitely...
Well, I came to love Ben later.
Yeah, of course.
I came to love Ben later.
As I said, he had this kind of vulnerability, and in a way, weird though it might sound, he was so brave. Eubank was really brave, but Eubank had this unbelievable chin, and he knew he did. Whereas Ben was kind of like, I mean, I've kind of got a normal chin, but he would just stick it out there and swing.
For me, the McClellan fight for Ben, like to get knocked out of the ring in the first round, then to come back.
And it was a heavy beatdown those first few rounds.
Yeah.
It was so like...
And McClellan had this reputation.
Could you imagine that happening in this day and age?
Yeah, yeah.
The fight would have got stopped about 7 times before Nigel really started getting back into the fight. Yeah,
because he come back into the fight, then he was out on his feet again, and McClellan was, like I say, had this reputation, what a massive puncher he was. And then for Ben to come through that and to win by stoppage, and even though obviously then the fight was tragic and we all know how that's gone, but nonetheless, from his point of view that night, where he was and how he come back, I think everyone... How could you not become a Nigel Benn fan after that fight?
Yeah, of course. And you look at the careers they had, God, they were in some hard fights. And for that reason, I think they both said to their sons, you're not doing this. You know, I did this, so you don't have to do this. You are not doing this. And Eubank kept Junior away from it for a long time. He had to basically beg him to let him do it. And they took a very hard attitude to it. Chris Senior said to Chris Junior, all right, you can do it. Off you go to Vegas by yourself. I'll hook you up with Mike McCallum. He'll get you a good few gym beatings. Then let's see how you like it. And Nigel was the same. He said, all right, let's put on the gloves and go in the garage. And he kind of gave it to his son, as the story goes, just to show him this is what this is about. We don't play this. The fact that they both decided they wanted to do it when they don't have to do it, I find it kind of incredible, to be fair.
And I can't lie, it's the story of a Conor Benn or a Chris Eubank or a Sami and Adam Hamed that have made me think those same thoughts. Yeah, boxing's hard, but at the same time, without boxing, my life wouldn't be what it is today. And I've kind of done the opposite. My son started in boxing age 4 or 5. Now they're doing martial arts a couple of times a week. And I'm just trying to build him into capable little potential fighters that if they do ever decide, like Conor has, I'm going to fight it even against my father's wishes, then at least they're in the best position for it. And it is commendable, though, and I can only imagine what it's like. I was following in my brother's shadow, so I know what that's like, but I can't imagine it being your legend of a father that is keeping you away from boxing, and you're seeing how people treat him still to this day, how people ask him for pictures, how people get excited to see him. How could you begrudge the son of a fighter wanting that same experience? I think it's one of the hardest things to see the life of a fighter and not want a bit of it yourself.
Well, one of the storylines running through the build-up as well has been the two dads. You won't be in the corner of Junior unless something pretty remarkable happens this week. Nigel Benn, though, has been with Conor every step of the way. He'll be there on the night. He's been with him in training camp out in Mallorca, watching his every move.
I'll knock Eubank out, and then I'll win the WBC World title.
I didn't, did I? I think you know what it is, yeah, because he touched my son. So that's why I went for him. And I'll do it again.
I personally do hate him. I've got a big point to prove to myself. I've got a massive chip on my shoulder.
You're done. You're right with Wilson, you're done.
I'm a savage. It's elite all the way through. And for me, if you need anyone to push you or motivate you in training, you are in the wrong game. Dad, stop taking a minute, mate. Come on, go on, let's go. Put your back into it, Nige.
Wow, these are grim. They are, mate.
When I do my training, I'm all about making things harder for myself. It ain't no joke to me. Like, I ain't all fun and games. You can't give in. You can't just wave your white flag. You can't just quit. And that's all the attitude has come from my dad.
39, quick. Feeling my ass.
Pretty gruesome steps. Tony's going to be up there timing him.
V for victory, Winston Churchill.
He's got his previous times as well. So quite leg heavy, quite lung heavy, but we'll wait and see how Conor gets on. I'm sure he's going to dominate like he does with every workout.
Live for this shit. Demon time. Can't run, caught me knees. So champions are made. Sit.
Conor is an incredibly explosive athlete, and he's also someone who has a big engine. Steps are great, you're going to get huge lactate accumulation in the blood, the legs are going to feel pretty heavy, I think, and Conor is just such a savage. You saw the way he was just going up there, putting a lot of force into the ground, gets into that focus mode, gets it done. His ability to tolerate lactate in the blood, so in the latter parts of the fight, that's going to be really, helpful for him and beneficial for him. Certainly when he drops low as well, he uses his legs quite a lot and then, comes up with his shots.
You know it's grim when it takes you about 10 minutes to walk down. Oh, mate.
To get up at 4:30 in the morning tonight, it's tough to keep doing that. It's tough getting in the ring, so to get up that early and get your work done when it's dark and there's no one up, it gives you a good mindset to get into your training, get into the fighting mode.
Those steps did look pretty evil, to be fair. I bet none of you three miss those days, those early mornings. And the shenanigans are kind of beginning here in Fight Week because we've got a slight delay. Our main event fighters were supposed to be with us pretty much now or any time now, but neither wants to be waiting for the other one. So we've maybe just got a little bit of a standoff currently. We won't have too long, though, to wait before they do arrive. Johnny Nelson has joined us. And Johnny, watching that training footage, in a fighter's career, in an elite level athlete's career, there's plenty you can't control. You can't control what happens on the night. Nothing is guaranteed. The one thing you can do is train as hard as you possibly can. And you can see that Conor Benn really leans into that. He loves the data. He loves the stats. He loves having everything recorded. He loves personal bests, because if that all goes well, then as much as it ever can, it can keep those lingering doubts in the back of your mind under control.
Andy, I think
we can guarantee that applies to both fighters. I think both fighters, they're the young generation, that younger breed, where they understand fitness is going to be the least of their problems for both fighters. They're going to make sure that box is ticked. There's a lot at stake here. There's a lot of pride here. So if your fitness lets you down, you know, that's the one thing you know you've cheated on. So when you're in a tough fight and things aren't going your way, that's your trap door out. I didn't do this, I didn't do that. They're making sure they've got no trap doors, no excuses. That's what you call trap doors. They're making sure there's no trap doors. So you saw Conor training. It looked brutal. And I'm quite sure Chris is doing the same. Brutal training. They are going to make sure they tick every single box. It's a must win for both fighters.
And Matt, how important is it to have had a really good camp? Because they'll both arrive this week and they'll say that they've had an amazing camp, the best of their career. Because what else can you say? They will say that, but how important that is, at least that's approximately true even, because I know you had camps for really big fights where they weren't good and you would have gone to the ring knowing that they weren't good and that was not ideal.
No, and obviously by that point you just got to put it back to the back of your mind, and you're still just concentrating on things you need to do, and you're not dwelling on what's gone wrong. You've just got to focus on what's gone right, what you need to do to get the win. But I think, going in there hoping for the best, hoping you can dig out a performance, and going in there believing to the absolute last cell in your body that you're going to produce the best you've ever been, are two different things. So, training's crucial, because what you do every day in the gym is what's going to happen on the night. And if it hasn't been happening in the gym, it's unlikely that you're going to pull it together on the night. I think in terms of training brutally, I think for Conor Benn, where he's in his career at his age, yes, he needs to train as hard as he possibly can. Eubank, I think sometimes less is more. As you get older, you still got to train hard, you still got to be fit, but how you get there, you don't have to flog yourself as hard. So I think you've got to be more conservative and, train a bit smarter.
And do you think, Sonny, given that you've done this, all three of you have obviously, but given that you've done this, will there be times this week where, if you can catch them in unguarded moments where they're by themselves just flicking through their phone or whatever it may be, you might get a sense of where they're really at, of how things have actually gone?
Yeah, I think there'll be some telltale signs. The words they use in reacting to a certain question doesn't mean they're telling the truth, doesn't mean they're being transparent, but you'll be able to usually see it in their face. I feel like the amount of effort from both sides that have been put into this, like Johnny said, their teams are going to be there making sure that they're earning their percentage. They're going to be making sure that they're counting the reps, how many punches were counted, how many steps went up. They're going to be making it as sophisticated as possible, because they need to be at least making their fighter that they're working with think that they've got the best team, all the boxes are ticked, and that they, like Johnny said, no trap doors, no, oh, I didn't do that, or oh, that week. And now, don't get me wrong, there's always niggles. There's always something. There's always maybe a tight shoulder, or I didn't get to do that spar because of that. There's always something that takes away. There's no such thing as a perfect camp, in my opinion. There's always a day where your hand's hurting a little bit or your elbow's a bit more sore. Chris Eubank, the stage of his life, the stage of his career, and the making weight will probably have to be a lot more considered on when he's training and what he's training. Look, he's probably not been smashing out loads of strength and been smashing out loads of certain reps, because obviously it's counterproductive from where his body's trying to get to, which is obviously smaller than where he is at the beginning of camp.
This is the type of fight, I will say, that if either guy was injured, this fight and the circumstances with the first one now back here, it's one where you probably would push ahead with it, even though you were injured.
And there's one thing that you got to check out. That was in the dark, and I'm quite sure most have done it. I used to go running 3 o'clock in the morning. I go running 3 o'clock in the morning because I knew my opponent was in bed. So they're going to tick every box, do all the superstitious things to think, I'm going to train that a little bit harder, a little bit earlier. I'm going to make sure I do every single thing possible. So that shows me there, whatever time of day that was, remember, coming to summer now, so whatever time of day that was, that means they're thinking, I'm putting the work in. It might be the midnight, it might be early hours in the morning. They make sure that they're going to tick every single box to make sure they're there.
So let's just have a quick word on the rehydration clause, because it's 160 this fight, but it's a £10 rehydration. You wouldn't imagine that's going to have any impact on Conor Benn at all, really. And what that means is that his kind of fight week preparation, in its most serious form, will finish when he weighs in at lunchtime on Friday. The ceremonial weigh-in is on Friday evening. For Eubank, he's still got a while to go at that point, so his fight week is quite literally longer, isn't it? £10, I don't know what he normally gets in the ring at when he fights at 160. The noises he's made are that it's not really ideal. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would say that he's definitely going to be more than £10 heavy by the time they get in the ring. I'd say that he'll probably have to be mindful of what he drinks and eats, you know, because before he's done the second weigh-in, because, you know, if he's took £10 out of fluid, he could easily go way over that. So he's got to be careful of what. I would imagine he's got to be mindful of what he's weighing before he gets on the second. The rehydration clause weighing.
I'm sure the rehydration.
You know all about this actually because you're an IBF champion.
And for me, I can't lie, I only put on about 4 or 5 pounds between getting in the ring and that. I never put on much. But for a much bigger individual who maybe is used to fighting at a heavier weight, let alone having a rehydration clause, hasn't boxed down the IBF route at no world level anyway that we know of. But I think as well the biggest issue is obviously as long as it's how the IBF do it and how should be legal, is £10 the morning of the fight. So about 9 a.m., 10 a.m. latest, Chris will have to weigh in under 170. But then I think the problem is, well, do I accelerate up as much at this point and try and cut out a few hours before? Or do I do it how I normally would do and eat how much food I would normally eat on fight day? It's going to be balancing chasing being as heavy as possible and also not eating too much fuel and too much food on the day of the fight, because at the same time your body can only absorb and digest so much.
And worst case scenario is, what if he's over? He'll forfeit a little fine. The fight still goes on.
He's been paying fines left, right and centre.
The fight still goes on. So don't be surprised if that does happen. Like, I don't care.
Yeah, if I was Eubank, I'd take the fine. I wouldn't let myself be.
You don't know how heavy those penalties are, though.
No, I don't know.
Sure, there's a specific that way in penalty per pound. I'm sure.
Maybe, but I think the win and my health would be more important than he's getting well paid.
£1 million
anyway.
a pound it wouldn't be, though, would it?
No, maybe not £1 million a pound.
You're making 159 just in case.
Absolutely, you do.
What I will say though, and I'm sure Sonny and Johnny will know people too. I know lads that are taking £10. I know a lot of lads that are taking £10 off from Thursday night to Friday afternoon to make the weight £10 from there to there. Plus they've already done £4 or £5 dropping the carbs that week, so they're putting 16, 17, 18 pounds on from the weigh-in. So, if that's, I don't know where Eubank is with how he takes the water out and how much, etc. But, £10 isn't a lot.
It isn't, especially if you're struggling to make that weight. Apart from being thirsty, you're hungry as well. So you want to compensate your hunger with food and your thirst with water. So £10 is really, it can be a burger and a drink, whatever it is. It's one little meal, £10, and so therefore it's not. It doesn't. That might sound easy to put the weight back on again, but it doesn't. That weight actually doesn't benefit you massively. If you put 16 pounds on, it will not benefit him massively. He'll sweat most of that off. So that's what you got to keep your eye on.
So you would all probably agree if I say that although Eubank is naturally the bigger of the two, and he's the one who's boxed at middleweight and super middleweight, that rehydration clause is a clever piece of work by Team Ben because it will take the edge off that natural size advantage. Is that a fair statement?
It means he can't just switch off either once he's made weight on Friday. He's still got it's still there, isn't it? He's still got to be within a certain amount of weight, in the morning. So he can't. It's not even like he can just be at peace, rehydrating and enjoying his food.
Yeah, and I mean, if today's anything to go by, if Eubank is this late on fight night, it'll probably be so he had that extra meal and just waited for it to digest. When we're all waiting in the venue, Chris is an hour late, boys.
It's an American time.
Some time filler.
Well, I mean, it's pretty much par for the course for him. What kind of role do the teams have this week? Because Team Ben would have been aware, thinking to themselves, Eubank's going to turn up late and try and make us wait for almost anything. So then your logistics become a little bit tricky. Do we leave at the time we're supposed to leave at and sit around and wait for him? Or do we use some brinkmanship and assume he's going to be late and we'll set off late? And it's all these kinds of things that might not seem that important to people looking from the outside in, but actually they do matter.
The night of the fight?
All week. All
yeah,
week.
all week.
Even.
Yeah, well, no, the fight won't matter because there'll be slots, won't there, for television, etc. So that they won't be able to mess that up.
Mayweather's turned up late a few times.
But these mind games, I mean, these mind games that take place during the course of the week. You know, I feel like if you're Team Ben, you need to try and not protect him necessarily, but he's quite emotional, and he could waste some energy on this.
I think you need your manager to be strong here and say, listen, this is the time we've agreed. If he's not there by then, we're gone.
And that's what I think will happen. I think no matter what, because each team has got the responsibility of getting a fighter. And I've seen it when fighters like taking the time to getting into the ring. If he's not in the ring within 5 minutes, I'm off. I'm going back to the dressing room. And so if you've got a strong team around you, a courageous team, it's right. This is what it is. We've done our bit. That's our contract. We're gone. So they may both want to play the same game with each other, but I think they've both got strong teams that won't stand for that nonsense. And it's only Tuesday, so you've got to start as you mean to go on.
Yeah, that's my point, really. It is only Tuesday, and I'm not saying, by the way, that it's definitely Eubank who's late. I don't know who's late, but somebody's late because we've got an empty stage behind us, and I wouldn't imagine that either one of them is going to say too much today. Probably they won't say too much tomorrow. Maybe save it for the press conference on Thursday when we're at the stadium.
I'll tell you what I'm surprised at. So we've seen the fighters come on face to face, stand there, one question, that's done and dusted. I'll be very surprised if they actually let that happen with these two fighters, with Conor and Chris. I'd be very surprised fight week to let him come face to face, you know, on the Tuesday before, because anything could happen. We've seen it already. So I'm curious to see how this unfolds.
Okay, so the information I have is that Eubank is in the building and that Conor Benn is around the corner waiting for Eubank to arrive. And that's kind of exactly what I was talking about. Do you get to the venue and just surrender the fact that you're on time and you're waiting for him, or do you hide out around the corner and just send your spies out to see when he arrives so that you're not waiting for him, although actually you have been? It's all these details that might seem ridiculous, but with elite level athletes, you're so competitive that any kind of perceived advantage or win during fight week does matter.
I remember when I was fighting and weighing in for the Bam Rodriguez fight. Oh, everyone's there. He's going to be 45 minutes, an hour late. And now I was kicking off because I know what fighters go to the hotel rooms to rehydrate, yada, yada. So that was where the time was coming from the morning to the ceremonial weigh-in. So I just got off, me, and a couple of the matchroom staff was chasing me down. And as soon as he was in the door and in the venue, then I make my way back. But it's all cat and mouse. But at the same time, if I've arrived on time and fulfilled my responsibility, I'm not going to stand here whilst and sit here and be involved in the circus any longer than I really need to be. This is fight week and big stakes. Do you know what I mean? You have to put your foot down and see where you leverage at. If I was whoever was here early, you have a time. If not, we're not doing it, or we're going on our own. If you're ready to fall out with people, that is.
I've just seen Junior's team walk upstairs, so even though we're waiting, the whole team have gone upstairs. I'm not seeing Conor's team at all. So
I think he's nipped to the gents, Junior, from what we're told. I think he's nipped to the gents.
Cat and mouse.
It reminds
you got to go.
If you've got to go, you've got to go. It reminds me of a story you told me, Macklin, though, about how when you boxed Sergio Martinez, headlining at Madison Square Garden for the WBC World Middleweight title on St. Patrick's Day, which is an Irish fighter. It doesn't get any bigger than that. You turned up at the normal entrance with your brother and your kit bag. The lowest key thing ever.
Yeah, but everyone's different, aren't they? And that's the way I was, you know what I mean? I didn't do the entourage thing. Like I say, I got my own way there. And the team was already there. And I just got a taxi. Well, we went a taxi. The car picked us up. But just me and my bro, we walked in with the bag because that's how I was. But, some people want the entourage, want loads of people around. They feel comfortable in that.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I saw Glanton and his manager, Napa, hasn't walked in until Chris has, I kind of gathered that, okay, they must be coming a bit late. Because obviously they were the same team, same manager. His manager weren't here to represent the fighter fighting Chris Billam-Smith, so...
Reminds me of Liam Smith when he came in to do the gloves are off with Chris Eubank. Liam just got the train down by himself, walked in. Chris has got all his team there. And he's just like, on what? It was that some fighters feel powerful when they're on their own walking in. They don't need their entourage, like Matt said. And so it's just how you represent yourself.
Eubank is inching his way to the top of a spiral staircase just over my left shoulder. So he's taking his time, but he will be with us fairly shortly. And this is what we expected during the course of the week, this kind of cat and mouse, and this is what I think we can expect to happen throughout the rest of the week. Of the two characters, they are very different. Eubank is one of these people who is incredibly good at winding people up. I remember you saying, Matt, a while ago, I think it was on the press tour, that he would be a terrible person not to like, and it's really easy not to like him because he's just got this natural ability when it comes to winding people up. And someone like Ben is kind of tailor-made for him because Conor is quite emotional. He does tend to snap. How important is it this week, Sonny, that he doesn't do that he tries to keep it a little bit more under control?
It's two sides of the same coin, really. I feel like some parts are sort of nonchalant and relaxed. Conor Benn would almost seem strange. I think he's put so many efforts in stages of his career to bring energy and bring fierceness and fight that I want to see it now. I mean, he was knocking out people in easy fights and then screaming down he's the destroyer and he's the most ruthless. So let's see it now in the big moment. Let's see you come and... Because I think that will build into his persona more. I think if he does get involved, will he not? I'm not sure. You know what Chris is going to come do, try and have the last say, try and tell Eddie the Sharp. We already know what Chris is going to do. He's already sort of paved that villain arc and he just sort of picks his point and then just spends half an hour dancing around it. I think we always get that with Chris Eubank, where with Conor Benn it's a lot more unpredictable. And that's what shocked us, I think, so much more in the first press conference, because it was the other way that caught us by surprise.
So Thomas Triber has made his way onto the side of the stage. Eubank, I'm now told, is signing gloves upstairs. So this is some proper tomfoolery. I haven't cited Conor Benn.
Conor's there, just
having said that, Eddie Hearn has just walked past behind us, and here comes Team Ben.
Conor's in place.
Conor's there.
And he is ready. Actually, he was at the start. He was at the head of that crocodile. So the whole team was coming in force quite quickly. Eubank over on the far side. You liked an opportunity during fight week or during a build-up, Johnny, to kind of niggle at an opponent, wind them up, find that sweet spot if you could. Do you feel like that's something that Eubank, that it does just come naturally to him? And do you think that Ben is an easy target for him?
Father and son all over again. Chris Senior knew exactly his persona, his MO wasn't the kind of MO that Nigel would move with. And it's the same with Conor. Conor's a down-to-earth kid, or he's not a no-nonsense kind of guy. Chris gives the impression that he doesn't care for boxing folk. You know, I'll do my bit and then I'm off, you're beneath me. And you can understand why the census is, a lot of people like Conor because he's approachable, where Chris doesn't care if you want to approach him or not. So that dismissive attitude actually would probably wind Conor up as well, because thinking you're not showing me any respect. So and he'll play on it. That's what he'll do.
Well, there he is, the destroyer, waiting patiently. It's been quite a ride since the start of his pro career. We all remember that night at York Hall when he got in there with Cedric Payno and was put down hard a couple of times, had to get back up and fight his way through that one to get the decision. And then the last couple of years, obviously, after the two failed tests around the proposed first fight between these two, has meant that he hasn't boxed in the UK since then. He's had a couple of outings in the USA, and it's a big, big fight for all sorts of reasons. But actually, one thing that people aren't really talking about much, Matt, is that this is the first time he'll fight in the United Kingdom since all of that. And the public perception of him since then has changed, because in the first fight, Eubank was the bad guy, as always. Conor Benn was the wholesome good guy on the rise. He's not that anymore.
No, it'll be interesting to see how he deals with that and what reception he gets on the night. You know, also up at 160, I know we've gone on about the weight, but there's a lot of unknowns. You know, and like I said, this is, what is it, 2.5 years on from the first one now. So, you know, he hasn't looked as dynamic in those two fights, so he hasn't carried the power up. He's going up again. Eubank's been relatively busy in comparison. He had a couple of wins. Okay, not the most impressive, but he got the win. It was impressive that he came back from it with Liam Smith. I think Liam didn't look right, but you can't take away from what Eubank. He still went in there in the immediate rematch after a bad stoppage defeat and did what he was supposed to do. And then, you know, in Saudi, that guy he beat wasn't bad. You know, and he stopped him, put him down, dropped him. So, you know, Eubank's rehabilitation from the Smith loss has been pretty good. So him coming into this one, you know, he's super confident.
Okay, I'll just see if I could get my timing right on this one. There's Eubank. He's making his way to the other side of the stage. Thomas Treiber is standing like a noble statue in the middle of the stage, just waiting for a prompt to give us the intros for these two.
And with how slow he's walking, I'm glad we're all getting paid hourly. That's what I'm going to say.
Well, you might be, but then again, you always did negotiate a very shrewd deal, didn't you?
If it goes any slower, we'll be doing the moonwalk.
I've seen a few contracts so far.
Well, there we are. The scene is set. We're back here tomorrow for the open workouts. They'll plonk a ring pretty much where that runway is, I would imagine. And we'll see the fighters put through their paces. It's part of the ritual of fight week. Grand arrivals, open workouts, press conference, and then the weigh-in on Friday. Then fight night on Saturday night from Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which is an absolutely fantastic arena. I've been there a couple of times, AJ against Usyk and then Fury against Chisora. It really does create a sensational atmosphere.
And welcome, Mr. Ben Shalom of Boxer.
Ben Shalom introduced onto stage.
Ben, you have a major show this weekend, Tottenham Stadium, over 60,000 sold out crowd. What kind of atmosphere are you expecting?
Look, this is absolutely enormous. I think it's going to be something that goes down in history. It's the biggest fight of the year. It's the biggest event of the year. It's the biggest story in British boxing of the past 30 years. I'm delighted to be involved. Thank you to Boxer, Matchroom, The Ring, His Excellency. Without him, we wouldn't have been able to get this fight even made, but what a card and what an event we have to look forward to.
And look, there's no secret about the rivalry between you and Eddie Hearn. How badly do you want Eubank to win this fight?
Look, he's already told me it's on site, and so I'm just watching myself. But no, in all seriousness, this is about Chris and Conor. Chris is ready. He's had an unbelievable camp. He's taken this as serious as he's ever taken any fight, and he's ready to do the business on Saturday.
And what kind of fight are you expecting on Saturday?
Look, I think it's going to be an unbelievable first 2 or 3, extremely frantic. I think Conor's going to come out, but I think once it settles down, I think Chris is going to show him who's boss and take him out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
And now let's welcome Mr. Eddie Hearn of Matchroom Boxing.
So here comes Eddie Hearn, distinct height and reach advantage. I don't know if we're going to get a face-off between the two. We've had a nice friendly handshake, which is a good start.
Eddie, you promoted a lot of big shows in England, obviously with Anthony Joshua, a lot of fights at Wembley Stadium. How does this fight between Eubank and Ben stack up?
Well, this is the biggest fight in British boxing outside of the heavyweight division since Froch and Groves. But this has something very different. This has an appeal to all kinds of demographics, all kinds of age groups. Everyone knew their fathers and everyone knows who they are. This is the greatest rivalry in British boxing. Eubank, Ben, 3, really, if you want to call it. But just a massive event sold out at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and a real important moment for British boxing and these two fighters.
And look, this fight obviously was meant to happen a few years ago, but it feels like it's a lot bigger now with all the build-up, right?
Yeah, of course. Look, the narrative was there originally. Now you've got 2 years of bad blood. You know, the controversy, the build-up, this week as well. But it's a great fight. You know, I said before, people talking about their fathers, of course, they're 2 of the biggest legends of British boxing. But these are 2 world-class fighters in their respective divisions. And our boy is just looking sensational, ready to do the business.
Yeah, and you say he's looking great. He's obviously moving up 2 weight classes. How do you think he's going to look on fight night?
I think he's going to look sensational. I've never seen anyone put work like this in training camp. I've never seen him sharper. I've never seen him more focused. He wins by knockout on Saturday night. There's no question in my mind, the team's mind, he's ready. And you will see a demolition job from Conor Benn on Saturday night.
Thanks, Eddie.
Eddie and Ben, if we could please have you stand together for photos, please.
They need to turn around and give us a face-off here, surely. surely.
I don't think Eddie would let him leave the stage if that happened, Andy.
Just for a bit of fun. That was an awkward photo. I think it's fair to say, isn't it?
There's a lot of awkwardness on that stage.
It's just the whole crowd as well, just staying quiet and letting just stand there in silence.
Ladies and gentlemen, our main event this Saturday, scheduled 12 rounds in the middleweight division. Let's first welcome from Ilford, London, England, undefeated with 23 wins, 14 of his 23 wins coming by way of knockout. Let's welcome the undefeated former WBA Continental Champion, Conor the Destroyer Benn.
Something I find interesting about this is when you hear the fight announced, Sonny, 12 rounds middleweight, no title, doesn't matter. As somebody once said a few years ago, this is for the title of each other. It's for bragging rights. It might not have that much significance on a global scale in terms of world champions, but it is a British blood feud, and that is what sells.
Yeah, one that started, 20, 30 years ago and captured a whole generation. Their fathers have set such a legacy for them both to walk in that this is one of the biggest fights of today's day.
Conor, you're a natural welterweight, moving up 2 weight classes, and in your middleweight debut, you're fighting one of the best in the world. How strong are you feeling?
Yeah, listen, I mean, it don't concern me in the slightest. You know, I've prepared hard. I've done everything I possibly can in the gym. I've left no stone unturned. So for me, I look at him, I ain't really too concerned. You know, I'll beat him anyway.
This has been a really heated promotion, a lot of bad blood. Is it personal?
Yeah, it's always personal. Every opponent I fight is personal. People want to say it's strictly business. It ain't business. It's never business. If you're trying to put your hands on me and render me unconscious, it's never business. It's always personal. Every single one of my opponent. But this one has a little bit more history to it, should we say.
Yeah, you know, 30 years in the making, you might say, and you're going to fight him on Saturday at Tottenham. How badly do you want to get your hands on him?
Yeah, badly. I mean, I wish I'd done already. I wish I was fighting tonight. You know, so unfortunately we got to wait a few more days, but you know, ultimately all the hard work's done. I'm excited to go in there and do a number on him.
And what's your prediction?
As soon as I get my hands on him, he'll know what's up.
Thank you and best of luck.
And now let's welcome from Brighton, England. He has a professional record of 34 wins, 3 defeats. 25 of those 34 wins come by way of knockout. He is the former WBA interim world champion and current IBO middleweight world champion and number 5 by Ring Magazine. Here is Chris Eubank Jr.
That was a good line from Conor Benn. It's never just business, it's always personal. And this is very, very personal between these two. I just feel, Matt, that if Eubank loses this fight, it'll kind of destroy his career, to be honest, because he's fighting for the Eubank name. So is Conor Benn, but Conor Benn's younger. He can come again. He's the one going up 2 different weight divisions for Eubank. There is nothing other than winning.
Yeah, I think it would destroy Eubank, and rightly so. Conor Benn could stand the loss a lot more. He'd almost got the justification. I stepped up 2 weights, etc., etc. But
Chris, a fight many years in the making. You're the naturally bigger guy, 160 pounds, middleweight, and you're fighting Conor Benn coming up 2 weight classes. How much of an advantage do you think you have in the size, strength, and power department?
I keep hearing this 2 weight classes thing. He's not coming up 2 weight classes. His last fight was at 156 pounds. He's putting 4 pounds on. He hasn't been a welterweight for 3 years. This fight isn't about size or weight. It's about skill. It's about dedication. It's about expertise. And all those areas I excel in and have got many, many more years of experience over Conor Benn, and that will be the deciding factor on the night.
Well, yeah, you're certainly the most experienced opponent of Conor Benn's career. Do you think your skills are going to be too much, your jab, your power?
Again, it's, this isn't any one attribute. I'm a complete fighter. I've been doing this for so long now. I've forgotten more things than he knows. And that will show on the night. The experience, the dedication, and the will. These will all be the deciding factors.
It's been a really heated promotion. You're already fined by the British Boxing Board of Control. Can we expect to see any more shenanigans from you in this promotion?
Shenanigans? I don't do shenanigans. I do what I believe is right, and I do what I want to do. If you guys think there's shenanigans, then that's fair enough. I'm just being me.
And lastly, you've talked a lot about your desire to fight Canelo Alvarez at some point. What kind of statement are you looking to make on Saturday as you look into that fight?
The procedure will be parliamentary. That's the only thing I can say about the outcome of this fight. Everything will go the way I want it to go. I will be like a matador in that ring, and Conor Benn will be the bull.
Thank you, and best of luck.
Fighters, please face off at this time.
So I wonder how close they're going to let these two get to each other.
This, our main event, Saturday, scheduled 12 rounds.
That's a sensible distance, I would say.
Division.
Yeah, I think so. I
The
mean,
undefeated
just in
Conor,
case.
the Destroyer
You just don't want
Benn
anything stupid happening to fall off the stage. Someone does their ankle. Do you know what I mean? There's too much on the line now.
The procedure will be parliamentary. Throwing back to a favourite phrase of his dad's. He used it during the press conference as well. He was typical Eubank there. Ben was nice and relaxed, to be honest. I thought he gave good answers. Eubank, of the two of them, is a more natural orator. He knows that. Thursday will be his opportunity, really, to speak at length and say the things that he feels he wants to say. Conor Benn the first there just to break the gaze. As we were saying earlier on, nobody wants to invest too much in stare downs at this stage of the week, because we said it a few times now, Matt, but once you get past the 30-40 second mark, then it turns into a thing and nobody wants to be the first one. So they've all got that kind of internal body clock where they know when the right time is just to nice and relaxed, nice and casually, just break it off. Nobody's won, nobody's lost. It's day one of what is going to be
a long week.
Thank you very much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you tomorrow for the medium workout.
Interesting point you made there, Sonny Eubank, about the fact that, and he's right, he has been boxing at super welterweight. He's moved up to 156 pounds, and he's just about to join us now, the Destroyer. The Destroyer has come over for a quick chat. Good to see you. Thanks very much. We won't keep you too long. So, Conor, we were watching some footage earlier on. I've watched plenty of the behind-the-scenes stuff of training. It seems to have gone very well, and you seem to have been happy to let the cameras in as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I prepare hard. There ain't no tactics or antics I got to hide. I'm going to come in there and give it to him. That's it, really. I mean, you know what you all know what you're getting. I work hard, man.
At this stage of the week, you're going to have to get used to answering the same questions quite a lot over the next few days. But one I'm interested in is, it's been a long time since you boxed in the UK, and a lot's happened since you last boxed in the UK. How much are you looking forward to a British crowd again, and is that something you've been thinking about?
Do you know, it really does feel like the homecoming for me. It's one of them fights that never seemed to go away. I couldn't not give the British public this fight. And that's strongly how I felt about it. And it was a fight that just had to happen. It was just lingering around. Once I put this to bed, then, I'll drop back down to 147 and do what I've got to do. I'm only up here for these two fights, and then I'm dropping back down.
So how has that process been then? Eubank was keen to make the point on the stage that you've been up nearer in weight to 160 recently than we've been talking about, but people do think of you as a career welterweight. Obviously, a lot of science has gone into you putting that weight on correctly, but it's a different experience.
Yeah, my last few fights have been at 153. My last couple, sorry. One in each year. So I fought once a year, 153. So I am a welterweight.
What were you on the night of the fight at those fights?
I ain't got a clue. Nah, I wouldn't even know. Heavy. Yeah. I put on bowl. I am a 147. All my best performances come 147. I feel strong at 147, but I feel strong enough for 160 to do a number on this man and then drop back down. I want that WBC world title.
And how much of a resource has your dad been during camp? Because he's there all of the time, and those are long days, they're long nights. Fighters don't ever want to admit to any kind of fears or doubts, but you're spending a lot of time in your own head, obsessing about one man, and he's been down that road. So what kinds of conversations have you had?
Listen, I fear losing all the time. That's what gets me up at bed at 5 in the morning. I fear losing. It's the way I work. Some people go, they love to win. That's why I train hard. I fear losing, especially to this man. You know, so for me, it's just a matter of, of course you have your doubts, you have your fears, you have your worries, but ultimately, I've had that throughout my whole career. It's natural, part of the process. Am I extremely confident? I'm very confident. Confident as ever. Because I put the work in.
Okay, thanks very much. We'll let you go. Thanks for stopping by. I think we are going to swap Conor out for Ben Shalom in just a sec. I like that attitude, Sonny. I like that vibe, fearing defeat, accepting that is something that can happen as a pro boxer. People tell me is kind of essential, really. You have to have that understanding of what could happen in there. It doesn't matter.
Wow, see how you double guessed them, Ben? Oh, because I could kill you right now on your platform.
That was...
I can say a lot. I can talk about your uni days, Ben.
Now. Parliamentary procedure, gentlemen. Parliamentary procedure. I was just saying something there. The attitude from Conor Benn was good, because pro fighters do need to, I think anyway, fear defeat. It can be a motivating factor. Does Eubank fear defeat in this fight, do you think, Ben? I don't feel like that's something he could ever admit to.
No. I think that's what will be the difference, if I'm honest, is that he's been in these pay-per-view events, in these high-pressure moments so many times now. He's lost, he's won, he's come back. There's been rematches, there's been away crowds, there's been hostile atmospheres. He's ice cold. This doesn't faze him. This is what he lives for, and he's just looking forward to Saturday. He's so relaxed, had an amazing camp, trained for it like it's a world title, which is actually, everyone says you leave no stone unturned, but for Chris, it's actually unusual. He really has. We're just really looking forward to it now.
Do you know what? I think what a fantastic job everyone's done at not highlighting the 6-inch height difference. And I can't lie, I think if Conor Benn does go and do this, I don't expect him to, I'll be real. I think Chris is going to win this fight, I do. But if Conor does, I hope he gets accepted and celebrated the way that he genuinely deserves for how much of an uphill climb that I see this fight as, me personally.
That's a good point, actually. People aren't really talking about...
I think they're missing out on it right now. Look at the bookies. The odds ain't that far apart, and I think that's mental to me.
Yeah, the height thing is it's a real thing, and the reach that comes with it.
And not just the physicality. If you look at who Eubank has fought,
the level,
and you look who Ben has fought, like it's the mismatch in terms of experience and accomplishment in the ring. It's all what people are thinking this is in terms of making it a closer fight or backing kind of Ben is current form. He was coming into what should have been the first fight. He was on a roll, and I guess they're thinking, well, Eubank, he got stopped by Liam Smith. Okay, he won the rematch, but Liam didn't look right. And is it father time catching Eubank? I think that's what people are looking at.
But for a fighter, look, you guys know better than me. But if you don't have to make weight and you can just live healthily and put on size and go in there and not worry about it. Chris, all he's thinking about is weight right now. It's not easy for him.
No, and that's what I think people are looking at. I think people see that as a massive factor in why they can... The ones who are leaning towards Ben, I think that's a big part of their decision-making process.
And there's a lot of lightweights that would batter me right now, even though I don't have to make weight. It's just the way it is. If you're naturally a much bigger man, and we have seen that by where you spent your career at, there has to have been some real sizable advantages, and we've... see it. They stood next to each other. It almost looks like Conor shouldn't be fighting him. It looks like a smaller version of David Haye when he come up against Value. It was just such a sheer height difference. Obviously not a whole foot, just half a foot, feel like. And really a 20 pounds from where Conor started his career to where he's going to be fighting against Chris Eubank, someone that's campaigned at 160, went up to 168 and is coming back. I just think I think we're oversighting how much of an underdog Conor Benn should be, but I think everyone is. And I think that's been a great job of promoting by Matchroom, and also a great job of Chris Eubank of not mentioning how much bigger he is than him as well. It's not the height, it's not the size, it's the skills.
Look, I think Chris is well aware of the fact that he's going in there against a more athletic, a younger, a fitter, a more explosive guy. I believe that we know that as a camp, and so we know the first 3 rounds. Conor's going to jump on him, and it's going to be chaotic, and it's going to be, it's going to be something that Chris has to get through. And that's what we're feeling is can we get through those first 2-3 rounds, and then that should take over what you're saying. But I think it's going to be a dangerous fight personally. I think Chris isn't underestimating him, and look, Conor certainly believes in himself.
I think Eubank, if this wasn't such a massive event, I think if it was just based on pure boxing, what we know of Conor and what Eubank's done, and the fact that there is the size difference, I think Eubank could think it's a fight that there's only one way he can lose, and he gets caught with a silly shot.
Yeah.
But I think because of the magnitude of the event and the history and the bad blood, I don't think he'll get caught with the stupid shot. Do you know what I mean? I think he'll be super switched on.
Yeah, and he's shown a good level of boxing and been able to stay away and able to set trap. Chris has gone all the way to the top of the game. Okay, he lost against Billy Joe Saunders. He lost against world champions, Callum Smith, George Groves, high-level fighters.
Well.
Yeah. But high-level fighters where, like I've said the whole way, I think Matchroom have done such a tremendous job matching and building up Conor Benn. I think that people are completely overlooking that his best win was against a 4 years past retired Algeri, who every time he stepped in against the elite level got wiped out. And I think it's bizarre that people aren't making as much of a big point of it.
You're not really selling this event, you know.
Ben, I'm
here to comment on it.
Just one for you before we let you go. We're not expecting to see Eubank Senior in the corner, around the corner, particularly near Chris during this week, but things can always change. Do you get any sense that could happen? And at this stage, it probably wouldn't be that helpful, would it?
No, I don't think so. I think, to be honest, it's so close to the fight night now, it's just not something that anyone wants to talk about, wants to bring up. I can't imagine it was nice, Chris, seeing that. But because he's been here before, because he's been through a lot, he's just focused on the fight right now. For me personally, what his dad said and did, whether you agree with half of it or not, shouldn't be aired in the public, especially this close to a fight. I think some of it was overboard and personal. And personally, I think he should be very proud of his son and what he's achieved in the game. And that's all we're focused on. At the end of the day, if his dad will be there, we would be delighted as his dad. Not his trainer, not his boxing advisor, but as his dad, and that's all Eubank really wants.
Okay, thanks very much for coming over. We will swap you out with Eddie Hearn. So he's spoken to
again, the
Conor
proper promoter now. So
Ben Shalom, and Eddie Hearn joins us now. So that was a nice awkward photo with you and Ben in the middle of the stage.
I said, go on, dance. He started dancing.
I just wonder
now I've got him under complete control. I just wait, do that.
Behave yourself. Behave yourself. Were you tempted to turn around and turn it into a face-off, though? That's what we were really wanting.
No, definitely not. That's definitely cringe. But, you know, look, I think just like you see in the FA Cup, this is a bit... I mean, forget the fight. The fight's a 50-50. But promotionally, it's like the dream of the FA Cup, isn't it? All small clubs get their chance, you know, to take on the big boys, and I think, you know, it's a big moment for him.
And when you look at that, you look at what you've put into Conor Benn, everything that you've put behind promoting him, the fact that you've stuck with him through absolutely everything. When at stages, I think people probably expected there would come a point where you might feel like you just had to cut your losses, you know, business is business, that kind of thing. You've got him to here now into this massive fight. I wouldn't say from a business point of view, do you feel like he owes you or he owes you a win?
Listen,
but
at the end of the day...
It's big though, isn't it?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I either believe you or I don't. And if I believe you, I got your back. And that's all it was. It wasn't really that deep. I had Conor Benn, Nigel Benn, Tony Sims in my office 24 times when this was all going on. No one sees really behind the scenes, the tears, what it did to the family, spending nearly £1 million, he did, basically nearly going bankrupt to defend his name, you know, getting ridiculed across social media. No one even wanted to talk to him. But that's not what it was all about. I just believed him. And I weren't going to walk away from someone that I believe in. What would that make me be? Sorry, mate, I'm going to have to duck out because it ain't a good look for me. This is like we were in it together, and it's not. He don't owe me.
You see people do it though, don't you?
Yeah, but look, I mean, look, we're in it together. If I felt that if I didn't believe him, one thing's for sure, for 2.5 years, and still, I wouldn't have taken constant stick about it. I would have just gone, mate, I'm really sorry, like you said. But you don't do that. If you believe in someone and he's your mate, forget the client bit. I've represented Conor Benn since he was a baby coming in at the O2. He could hardly stand up. Since he was, 18, 19? I've spent a lot of time with him, and the family just doesn't work like that. You know, if I'm with you and you're with me, I've got your back. And when I believe in you like I did to Conor Benn, there was no way we were backing down. And now it's paying dividends. Now, that's all irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. All that matters is Saturday and the result. And I believe when he wins this fight, I will go absolutely berserk, because it will be one of the sweetest moments, and he will become the biggest star in British boxing with victory on Saturday night. But he's got to do it. And it's a tough fight. It's a 50-50 fight. But I've never seen people like Tony Sims, obviously I know Nigel's his dad, but the whole training team, you don't understand what he's been doing in this camp, to who he's been doing it to the sides of the people he's been doing it to. And I know sparring, everyone can say that. But I tell you what, if you could have programmed Conor Benn to turn up Saturday in the absolute peak of his powers, he's done it. So the rest is up to him.
Okay. Well, as always, you've given a great summation of events. Actually, no, one more then. So how does he win?
He knocks him out inside 6 rounds. I mean, look, I think that one thing is, Conor Benn is very accurate. He's very sharp early. He always lands early in the fight. Eubank is not this incredible fighter with unbelievable defence and footwork that's hard to land clean on. So Conor is going to land early in this fight. And I believe when he lands early and sharp, he will knock him out. Now, don't get me wrong, I've said before, this isn't a case of we go, oh, yeah, there's no way we can lose this fight. It's a very dangerous fight. I'm interested to see what Eubank does. What's he going to do? Is he going to take the middle of the ring? He's not going to want to get backed up, is he? By Conor, with the feints and the twitches early, get backed up on the ropes like the Chris Algieri knockout? Because that's what happened against Liam Smith. Does he come out and just fight fire with fire and say, look, I'm the bigger guy, I think I punch harder, I think I'm bigger, I'll stand and have it with you?
Should do.
But then if you do, you're going to get a British version of Hagler-Hearns, and it'll be all over inside 3 rounds, one way or the other.
Have that one way.
A British version of Hagler-Hearns would be absolutely fine. Yeah. Thanks very much for your time. Thanks very much, Matt. Sonny, we'll be speaking, I'll definitely be speaking to you two again tomorrow, probably yourself every day this week as we build towards fight night. Saturday night, after 3.5 years in the making, this fight is finally on.
After discussions with various parties, we have taken the decision to formally postpone the bout between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn.
I've not committed any violations. I'm a clean athlete, and we'll get to the bottom of this.
The fight is on.
This is your career, the livelihood. This is everything at stake here.
Been through hell and back. I really have been through it.
Eubank Jr. against Conor Benn could well be resurrected.
Yeah, it's a bigger fight now with what's gone on with
This
Conor,
could sound
etc.
Wembley. It's twice. It's far less now personal.
Is there a redemption element
I
to
always
it?
don't rub salt in my wounds the way they did. Kick me when I was down.
Really knows
And it's
what he's
Eubank
in
Jr.'s
for.
personal beef there. It needs to settle in.
The only way he's going to find out is
We're
when he
talking
finds
about
out.
one of the biggest fights in the history of British boxing.
I'm the shock to him.
He gets absolutely destroyed.
It's a great fight. What's that word say written down your arm there? Redemption.